Hi everyone, into the fourth episode of AIQ, the Artificial Intelligence Question. Basically, in this particular podcast series, we are trying to cover some journal queries around machine learning and data science field for beginners. In the fourth episode of AIQ, we will be debunking some myths from the machine learning and AI field. And for that, I have a very dear friend of mine who is a complete beginner in data science. Changing a bit in the format, what we will be doing here is I will be asking some questions. I will be trying to understand his perspective, and then I will be telling whether this is a myth or a reality. So, let's get started. So, the first and foremost question that I get asked a lot is, in a machine learning job role, does the data scientist or the machine learning engineer build just the models or anything else is also done? What is your perspective about this?
I guess since the primary role of a machine learning engineer or a data scientist is to solve problems with data, and that can only be solved by creating models or maybe uh, creating some solutions, and that all will be done with creating more and more data pipelines and all that. So I guess data. Playing with data and using the data to create some models or predictive analysis and all that should be the majority of the work in the life of a data scientist.
So if I tell you, my friends, I think this answer is completely not in sync in how a data science job role works. So basically building models, deploying models is just 10 to 20% of the entire job. You would be acquiring data, you would be analyzing the data, you would be meeting with the business team, what are the metrics to consider, you would be building dashboards. Everything gets incorporated in a data science project and not just model building. And the best part is model building takes lesser time because most of the functions are present and eventually everything is predefined. So basically model building takes the least time of all the things that I have mentioned. So do remember that data science role is not just machine learning model building. So I hope this is clear. Moving on to our next question. This is also a very interesting question. Basically, what do you think? Which languages would you require to work in a data science role? Do you think like all the languages like Java, C++, Golang, everything gets used, or a particular set is getting used?
Well, I guess there should be a basic stack which should be very much required, which starts from C++, Java, JavaScript, and also Python, some more languages as and when they are required, like uh, the Swift for the Apple ecosystem and Go for the Google ecosystem. So I guess a couple of languages should be required to make the tasks more easier on a day-to-day basis.
So this is a complete myth. I think, as my friend is saying, I also read at some point that you need to know multiple languages. That is not at all required. There are two major languages that you would require in data science, and you need to choose one of them. You don't need to know both of them also. Be it either Python or R. Python having a bigger community, at times people opt for it, and even companies opt for it. But even knowing R is equally beneficial. So if you know any one of the languages, I think it is quite fine, and that too not in much of depth. Knowing a little like the basic stuff and a couple of major libraries would be suffice for the entire career. It is not that difficult as people think it is. Now going to our next query that I receive quite frequently, especially on my Reddit, is basically whether would you require a MS degree or a PhD degree or like some higher education to enter the data science field, or do you think that like even a 12th pass or say a diploma holder or a bachelor's can get into the data science and AI field?
Thinking about my connections and people who are in the field, like most of them are doing MS. Most of us are actually pursuing higher degrees, like even postdocs and PhDs. So I guess the higher you are on the education side, it should logically make sense to pursue more impactful roles like a data scientist or maybe a machine learning engineer.
So my friend, to be honest, this is again the one of the biggest myths that is circulating in the circle. It is not mandatory to have a higher degree. It is always beneficial, no doubt. But I have seen my colleagues from different backgrounds, not even from computer science background, not even from mathematics background, going to the data science field. Basically, in data science, there are two major roles that you can define. One is the applied scientist, and other is a research scientist. For the research roles, yes, most of the companies put a filter of a degree, but as most of the openings are for applied scientists, a person with a diploma degree also can enter this field. So it is a complete myth that you would require a MS degree to enter a data science or AI field. You don't need to worry about your degrees. Moving on, you must have heard of the concept of neural networks, right? Do you really think that the data scientists are using technology like neural networks? Like, it is quite complicated a concept on a daily basis, because you would be hearing a lot about neural networks coming in, transformers. These are some common terms that are going on right now on the internet. Do you think how frequently they would be using it? You have any guesses?
Well, from again my previous experiences and from the Andrew Ng's machine learning course, which is one of the gold standards in the industry, like the second week of the program itself is about neural networks. So since it is that important and that impactful, I guess using the transformers and using the neural networks would be something which people might be doing at least, if not daily, then every second day. Because if you're not using the latest technologies, the most advanced ones, then how would you do a work which is impactful enough to make a difference out there?
So before I give the final answer, whether it's a reality or myth, I will tell you a short story. I have been in the field for nearly 5 years now, and I haven't deployed a single neural network till now. Most of my models are classification models. I had did a couple of POCs, but mostly the companies are not very much into deploying neural networks. Multiple reasons, because they're too complicated to explain. Because eventually, when you are into business, you need to explain the results also. So neural networks are a big no-no unless you don't have any other solution left. They sound fancy, no doubt about it, but most of the time you would be avoiding it if you are into the real world and if you're not doing some fancy stuff. So I think what I have seen people jumping onto neural networks, they can skip it quite easily if you are a beginner. For beginner roles, I haven't heard anyone interviewing on neural networks as well. So neither in the role nor in the interviews, neural networks would be required at that level that people are reading it. Moving on to the next section, yeah, this is a very frequent question on Reddit as well. What are your perspective? How much mathematics you feel you should know before jumping into the data science or machine learning role? And what is the complexity you have in your head after, like, as you said, you have done the deeplearning.ai course by Andrew Ng. Do you feel you require a lot of complex mathematics to jump into the field?
Well, initially I had the idea that at least I should know differentiation, integration, understanding the derivatives, understanding the complex algorithms, and I would need probability and stats at least from a good level to even go forward, because real world challenges are quite complex, and that would need I mean, if I know much more on the mathematics side, that would be helpful for me. I guess yes, maths is very much important, no matter what people say.
Rightly said. I think there are certain influencers who are trying to say that no, mathematics is not important. Don't trust them. Maths is very much important. You need to understand the logic going behind an algorithm. Though life have become a lot easier because Python is providing you now with predefined functions to implement any algorithm. But still, you are the tech guy. You need to choose which algorithm I should be using. So for that, you need to have a backend understanding. Mathematics is required. On the other part, contrary, this is a one-time read, what I feel. Once you have read it, I think that you won't be requiring it again. You don't need to update on that. If you know the mathematics behind the 10 to 12 common algorithms, I think 80% of your jobs are sorted. So in short, it is not that complex. You don't need to read it again and again on a daily basis. If you know the basic concepts, that should suffice for most of your job. I hope this answers this particular query. Now moving ahead, one important question that I wish to ask is, what do you think, like what when a data scientist codes a pipeline, how long is the coding file? A very noob question, but I just want to know your perspective. How much do we code? How much a data scientist code? What, like, can you quantify the number of lines you can think of? Okay, hundreds of lines per project, something like this.
Well, from my learning experience, I guess I understand that certain things are made short with the help of SciPy and PyCharm and the other things, but still, I feel a lot of lines of code should be required. Quantifying it, I guess the most basic model should at least have 100 to 200 lines of code. Correct me if I'm wrong.
So I will just again give you a trivia. Recently I built a classification model, and if I'm not wrong, it took me like 5 to 6 line max in the whole pipeline, and my project is delivered. So basically I was using a new development called as AutoML, which handles everything for you: pre-processing, loading the data, cleaning it up for you, pushing it into the model, getting you the metrics, saving the model, everything done by just one line of code. So basically, what I have been telling to beginners as well, data science is more of a theoretical field rather than a more practical field. You would be coding very less, but you would be reading a lot. So this is something that you need to keep in hand. As my friend said, about 100 to 200 lines, I think in that I will deliver a number of projects. So this is a complete myth that we code a lot. You won't be coding a lot except a few cases. Most of your projects would like somewhere around 20 to 30 lines if you are doing manually everything. And the more you read about AutoML and other technologies that are coming in, the lesser you will code. One more important question that I wish to know from your perspective. Do you feel that how would the Jira system works for data scientists? So people who don't know, basically there's a concept called as sprints in the tech world, where within 15 days you need to deliver some task, you get assigned tickets, and then once the sprint ends, the person need to deliver back, okay, these are the tasks I'm done, these are my pending tasks. So this is called as a sprint. So how do you think sprint works, and like would it be successful, or what are your views on sprint with data science? If you know, if you can just throw some random things.
Well, yeah, I'm aware of a sprint and the tickets as well. So let's say, first of all, the product manager would be checking the feasibility from the data scientist itself, that how long will it take for a data scientist to deploy a model. Let's say they told that the entire process of researching about a problem statement and doing all that would take um, at least 1 week of research, and then maybe next week of collecting the data, and then the third week for maybe deploying the model. So 3 weeks is what I think a sprint might be going for a data scientist.
When I was listening to this answer, I was so happy from inside. So let me tell you one thing, that most of the companies don't have sprints for data scientists. If you are in a company where sprints are happening, dude, I think that you're in the wrong place. Because in my last like 2 companies, I've been in 5 years of experience, as I told earlier, there haven't been any sprints. And the reason given is that it's more of a research based field. You can't expect deliverables getting delivered in 7 days. So for example, you're expecting a model to work, but there are a lot of things that you need to check. You need to check about the data, you need to pre-process it, you need to run multiple experiments on that. So most of the companies don't have sprints. So this is the best surprising part that I eventually was not knowing beforehand, but once I joined, I came to know, and I'm more than happy about it. Now moving ahead, I think this is again a very important question. Something that came up to my mind is, what is your thought process? Like if I'm starting off with 10 POCs, for example, POC is basically a very small demo project that you present to the business and for approvals. Basically, if that gets approved, you move ahead. What according to you would be the rate of conversions for POCs in data science? Like for example, if I'm building hundreds of POCs, how many POCs would get converted to a real project? If you just take some random guess, or like from your experience can estimate.
Uh, I guess any company would not leave their resource to just go forward and bring random POCs. Obviously, they would give some area of research, some problems to solve. So depending on, I guess it should depend on how well the POC is working, maybe. But I guess the success rate, if I'm purely guessing, would somewhere be around 80 to 90%.
Again, you have missed the mark by a huge margin. The rate is even less than 5%. So basically, most of the POCs that our data science jumps onto never gets made into a project. I like from the start, if I give you a number, from the starting of the year, I think I have worked on 10 to 15 POCs, and finally just one or two are going into production. Multiple reasons for that. First of all, a lot of random problems are getting thrown, whether this can be done or not. So I remember when Gen AI came in, one of the projects that I was like just a random thought came ki how can we improve prompt for the people who are not good at prompting. We attempted a few things, we attempted 5 to 6 approaches, everything failed and the project got shelved. So this is the basic approach that happens in data science. You get a POC, you build, you get an idea, you build a POC, and 90% of the times the POC would be rejected. So the success rate of a POC converting to a final project is very, very less. So with this, I think we are able to debunk a few myths from the data science and AI field. I think we have left a few ones that we would be covering in our next episodes. I hope that you like this episode and you can check out our previous episodes as well that are designed specially for beginners. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for our guest also for answering our questions. See you next.